All right. Welcome to the Healthy Families Rule podcast. I am so excited to be here with my lifelong friend since I was 5 years old, Marilla Garcia. How you doing, Marilla?
I'm so good. How are you, Heather?
Okay, I'm amazing. And I'm just so excited we get to talk because we hardly get to see each other. We live in different states. But yeah, we grew up together a little bit, didn't we?
Yeah, I was actually thinking about it this morning. I was like, just like what I would say and how you probably are my longest friend that you moved into the neighborhood where I was born and raised, and then we've been friends ever since.
I mean, who can say they've known somebody since they were 5 years old? And they're
And
still like friends.
yes.
It's so
And
rare.
yeah. And we're like 40 now. So I mean
Yes.
my understanding of life and experience is that not everybody gets to age, and it's a privilege to be 40 years old and have that experience and
Yeah.
and tell about it. So
We never age. We're like the same.
right.
We just got funner too
Yeah.
with age. Like life
Yeah.
got better, right?
It gets better, and you just have more insight and more experience and opportunities and blessings and yeah, all the things. So,
Okay. So Marilla is a therapist, social worker, been doing this since when? How many years?
well, really, I mean, been doing this kind of a thing since I was 18, right out of high school. I started working at the county mental health agency just as a respite provider, doing some like group stuff for kids in foster care. And then I was able to be a stay-at-home mom. I did that for a few years. Then I was a stay-at-home mom for 5 years and had my own children, and then went back to school to get my master's degree in social work. So my license is a licensed clinical social worker. Whether that means anything to anybody else, doesn't matter. But I am a mental health counselor, and I finished school in 2010. So, I mean, technically, I started being a mental health counselor in 2008 and as an intern. And then, so yeah, that's like 14 years.
Okay. So are you working right now with a certain type of person?
Yes, right now, I recently, in the last few months, kind of came up with an agreement at a pain clinic in town. And so I see some of their patients for pain kind of management, do the mental health side of it, because if you understand mental health, you understand that the physical body hangs on to pain or and manifests itself mentally, and vice versa. Mental pain sometimes comes out physically, and so I work with some of their patients, but I do a lot with couples, and have combined my private practice there. So my private practice clients come to that office, and I see couples there and a lot of women's issues. Adult women is probably my preferable population, but I actually see a lot of adult men now too, that word's gotten around with these guys going through divorces that, hey, Marilla's got some, can help you.
Listen.
So yeah.
Couples therapy. I love
Yeah.
this though. Okay. So how do we know when somebody needs therapy? What are we looking for?
I think that anybody could use therapy. It's
Okay.
like a paid best friend, somebody that you
Mhm.
talk to and then bounce things off of. Um, so I think anybody could use it. But to say when you need it, I would probably say it's when um, you're struggling with something that you can't seem to fix on your own.
Yes.
Maybe it's something that you don't feel like you want to talk to your spouse about or your best friend about, and you would rather talk to somebody who is confidential and who can be objective.
Yeah. I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm just trying in my head to figure out how it differs from life coaching, I'm sure. So tell me, when someone comes to a therapist, are they mainly talking about their problem and the past problems and they need some help with that?
Yeah. Okay. Maybe the question is, what's the difference between a therapist and a life coach? And I would say there's not that much difference.
Or even a counselor? Like, are we kind of all in the same boat?
Yeah. I think we're all very similar. Perhaps the difference would be a life coach. Let's see. A therapist is trained to help you process through trauma, which is
Yes. So
Good, but I don't think they're supposed to technically, right? Because
no, because that's what we usually work with is high functioning people who don't have like the trauma piece. That is more specialized out to a therapist.
we're like high functioning people could also have trauma. And so, I mean, that's most of the people that I work
Yeah.
with. They're people, right? Um, they just have trauma that's maybe holding them back from accomplishing their life goals. And so we'll process through the trauma and we can do some life coaching as well. But also, not everybody has the trauma that they need to process, and they might just need a life coach.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Okay. So I want to get into like couples and how to have like an amazing marriage. This is a family podcast, and some marriages, as we know, struggle, don't they? So
A lot.
I guess what do we do with the couples who come to you or to me and they need some help? They need some help to kind of work through their marriage. What are we guiding them to do?
So I'm kind of like my thoughts. I want to spread them out because you said, you're like a family podcast, a healthy families podcast. And in a healthy family, if the foundation, meaning most likely the couple, right? Because the couple creates the foundation. And we can have families that are just a mom or just a dad, or families come in all shapes and sizes and differences. But since we're talking about marriage, right? The
Yes.
foundation of this home would be the mom and the dad, the husband and the wife, and or the partners. So it's, how do we help that relationship be solid? Because if that relationship is solid, the world could be falling down around you and you feel safe and secure and okay.
Yes. I say this to Grant all the time. I'm like, I don't even care what the problem is we're having. If we're not solid, like it feels like everything's falling apart.
Yeah. And then vice versa, right? If you guys, you could have everything in the world and $1 million and the biggest home and the nicest cars. If your marriage is falling apart, none of that stuff matters.
Totally.
Yeah.
Because now you have a broken heart to deal with. And that is like the hardest piece, don't you think, for people?
Yes. Because it's hard to fix a broken heart. And so then, okay, we have all these couples, they come in, right? Like, how do we help them? And the biggest thing I see is that people, we want to say like, fix my partner. I just, I got my husband here.
Change him.
We're like freaking nuts. Can you please tell her that she needs to change?
Yes.
That if, sometimes they say it takes two to fix a problem, but really it only takes one.
Yeah.
And if one person could just focus on themselves and being their best self, and just owning who they are, the other person has to change with them. Doesn't mean that they're not going to push back because they're used to certain patterns and they want to go back to the patterns that we're comfortable with.
Right.
It's not really comfortable, but it's comfortable because it's familiar.
Mm-hmm.
But if one person changes and gets good and gets right with themselves, it will change the dynamics of the relationship.
Yeah. And I think that advice can go for kids and parents too.
It's true.
Right. If one parent just stops yelling and nagging all the time and figures out a different way to parent a child who needs maybe something different, then it can change the whole relationship.
It totally does.
And so I see couples fighting, right? And the husband's used to like the wife coming and like doing the fight with him and doing that dance. And once she stops, he's uncomfortable. He doesn't like that because he's used to her like fighting. And that's a challenge.
Yeah.
You see that happen?
There's two teenagers say the same thing. Can you just fix my parents? And I'm like, well, clearly I do know that the problem is with the parents, because kids can be hard, but parents, if they would just change the way they parent, would actually help the child. But so I tell the kid, we can't fix your parents. They're not here, but I can help you. And if I can help you, then we can help them. So we help the whole system at the same time. But anyways, yeah.
Okay. So you're in a second marriage now.
Yeah.
So this means blended family. This
Mm-hmm.
comes with its own challenges. How do we speak to those people who are second marriage, how they're struggling to make it work? What do we do? How do we help them?
This is where I do say even more intensely, both, you've got to know yourself. You've got to be mature and you've got to accept that this is going to be different, right? Marriage is hard in a family with a mom and a dad and the kids who came from the same mom and dad. Even that's difficult. So when you add the blended dynamic and you now have step kids and exes that you're dealing with, like it just becomes even more muddy. So we have to be very mature and know when to walk away and know what battles to pick and what battles to let go.
What are some of the biggest challenges, do you think, in a second marriage?
I think recognizing that you don't have all the answers and that's okay. And letting the other parent, for example, with my husband, sometimes with how he wants to parent his kids, I have to sometimes just say, okay, I'm going to step away. I'm going to walk away and let him parent that way. And vice versa. There's things that he disagrees with how I parent, and he's had to walk away from that at times and let me just thing. So, but I also think that could help just in, a normal family and in a perfect world where we have a mom and a dad and kids that came from that union, that we also would respect each other and say, you know what, that's okay. If you want to, that I value what you have to offer the kids and I'm going to let you offer that. Right. Like, I have all the answers and this is the right way and this is the way to do it. I'm going to force them to do it that way. It just doesn't work so well.
Yeah. Okay. If you were sitting at a table and there was a girl who was getting married and we're going around giving her marriage advice, like what would you tell her? It's going to be her first marriage. It gets to you and they say, hey, give her a piece of advice. What do you say?
So the first thing I would say is don't have expectations.
Ah, I love that. Okay. Tell me more.
Because I think that I can admit what maybe my part in my first marriage was, I really didn't, I had expectations for how it was going to be or how it was supposed to be. And then I put that on him and expected him to be that way instead of appreciating what we did have and who he was. I wanted him to be somebody else. And so then that caused contention, that caused some fights between us, instead of me just saying, you know what, we actually have something really cool and we have our own relationship and it's good. And appreciating that, which I think any human wants, right? Don't we want to be valued and appreciated for what we do and who we are?
Yeah.
When you can treat somebody that way, what a difference you make in their life.
Yeah. A life coach once told me that, a marriage, you drop those expectations and they're just really someone for you to love and have fun with. So you can open up your heart and like have fun, and love them.
Yeah. And just see them for who they are and appreciate it.
Yeah. So I've had to learn to just say, I want Grant to be the grantiest Grant he could be, whatever that looks like. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't request things of him. I might want him to take the garbage out or do this and that, but I don't attach my expectation to him doing that and how I will treat him if he doesn't, or what that makes it mean if he doesn't do it. Right.
Right.
And that's been a lifelong journey of not attaching the meaning if they don't do what you are hoping they'll do.
Yeah. Or if you were like, I really want to go on date nights, but hey, you pick the date night one week and I'll pick the date night the next week and we're going to go and we're going to have the best attitude we can.
Yeah.
You're still asking for something, but you're not trying to make him be somebody he's not. Like, I want you to do it this way, or it needs to be my way,
What if one of the partners has an addiction to something? Like that's a whole nother can of worms, right? Like, what are we dealing with there?
Yeah, because that is hard for the other partner not to take it personal, and then how it affects the family or the relationship depending on what the addiction is, but if it's more like, if we can help that person get help and help the partner learn how to kind of neutralize themselves, but also not interfere too much, just like back off, let them figure, and don't be codependent, don't try to fix it, and don't own it too much, like let them.
Don't try to fix it.
Yeah.
But also, what if the spouse was like, I'm just disgusted by what he's doing. How am I supposed to love him? I'm disgusted by him. Like, how do you get to a point of feeling love and letting go and detaching and going back to that space,
That's tricky. And it's probably like a whole podcast session in and of itself, really, to talk about. in marriage and how we deal with that. And gosh, if you're disgusted, I mean, that's hard. I think you got to love
That's a
yourself.
hard emotion, right? Like to feel that, like
Yeah.
to see that person and always feel that resentment and you live with them
Yeah.
and they're in your home. Like,
And you,
how do you let go of those negative emotions?
yeah, that would take some time. That would take some time. And I would really have to talk to that person, the person who's disgusted, to try to really figure out, like, why are you disgusted? What are you focusing on, or what is the addiction, and how do we kind of separate that person from the addiction so that they're not disgusted by it? Because that just creates the shame cycle and puts the other person in this pressure of like, well, I'm not going to do it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Just hate me. So this addiction makes me feel good and you don't. So why would I choose you over this?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Tell me how sex plays a role in a healthy marriage.
Well, it's going to be different for every marriage because every marriage and every person is different. So I want to wrap up. You asked me the first question, right? What would you tell somebody if they were getting married?
Oh,
Um,
yes. Yes. Go back to that. Yeah. What
I
would you?
First of all, I would tell them, have no expectations, and just appreciate your marriage for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then second of all, and I think maybe it can lead us into the sex part, is like, know yourself. Be who you are, know yourself and accept yourself, love yourself. Because when you do that, you really can love somebody better. And I
Mm-hmm.
that to people and they're like, well, that's not true. If I don't have to love myself to love other people. And I would say there's some truth to that. I don't
Yeah.
think you have to love yourself to love other people. But once you've experienced loving yourself and loving somebody else, you see the difference, you feel the difference, and you really can love them better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because
Wonder.
if I accept myself and I forgive myself, and I know I have weaknesses, and I know that I'm not perfect, and I know that I make mistakes, but I'm still cool, and I still have a lot to offer, and I still have some really great talents and gifts, then I can see that in somebody else and I can love them for who they are, right? Like I can let them be the grantiest grant they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love myself and I can love him and his mistakes and his imperfections, and appreciate them. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not disgusted by him anymore because I'm not disgusted by myself.
Ah, that's so good. And a lot of people are disgusted by themselves. They don't even know how to step up to, I hate my body to I love my body.
Mhm.
There's some stepping stones in between there. I have a body. I'm grateful for this body, right? To get to
Yes.
the point where I love my body and I appreciate my body and myself. Some people
Yeah.
don't even want to get naked though, because like they hate their body. They don't want to, they can't even do it because they don't like to get naked.
Hmm. Right.
Which is,
They want to turn the lights off. It's pitch black and we're not seeing each other. We're not really intimate. It's a quick thing. It's not even like a connecting. We're not connecting anymore. It's just like a release and then we're done.
a release. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Which is kind of a shame, right? Like they're missing out on a really cool, intimate part of that whole connection that could be.
Yes. But it takes years to get that. It really does. You can't, it's just not, there's books that I would recommend for people. There's my favorite one recently is called Passionate Marriage. And
Passionate marriage.
um it's by David Snark. And he does talk a lot about sex, and he gives some examples and different things like that. But really the overall thing is to have a passionate marriage, not just sex, but a marriage where we love each other passionately and intimately, and we see each other, we feel seen, we're
Yeah.
really connecting.
Yep.
So it's not even about the sex or the orgasm, it's just about, oh, I'm connecting with my spouse, I'm being intimate with my spouse.
Yeah. There's so many ways to do that, right?
Yeah. He talks a lot about differentiation and making sure that you are a separate individual and that they are a separate individual. And then we come together and I can love you so much better because I love myself, I see myself, I know myself, and I can love and see you and accept you for who you are and that
Oh,
you're
I
cool.
love that.
but
That
you're
is a
different.
healthy marriage, if you ask me. I
Yeah.
see a lot of couples where one of the persons is like so attached to the other. It's like they can't go to a movie by themselves. They can't go do something by themselves because that feels weird. They're not really an individual on their own. And they just kind of get lost without that other person.
Mhm.
And I think that's sweet, right? But at the same time, it's like you can't even survive if this person dies. Like you're gonna really have a hard time on your own
Yeah.
being an individual.
Right.
So and it's hard for the one and the other partner when it's the spouse that's doing that to them because they're like, I would like to go do something on my own, but he always wants me to go and he always wants to come and I can't go do my own thing, you know?
Yeah.
And it can be wearing on people. So,
Totally. And that in that passionate marriage, he talks about that, but also in another one of my favorite marriage books, it's called Hold Me Tight. And that's by Dr. Sue Johnson. And she talks about emotion focused couples therapy. So we're focusing on the connection, right? Like you could have all the communication tools and you could do all the date nights and check all the boxes. Like we read scriptures together, we pray together, we do our meditations together, whatever it is that your beliefs are. We're
yeah.
checking boxes, but I still don't like them. I'm still not. So it's about making sure we're connecting. Like on those date nights, are you looking into each other's eyes? Are you having fun? Are you laughing? Are you
Oh, yeah.
telling each other nice things? Like,
Mhm.
are we making sure that we're speaking each other's love languages and
Mhm.
connected?
How do we bring back the fun and the laughter if that's faded over time?
It's tricky, right? Because now we've had I have a couple that I'm working with right now that's been married for over 30 years. And um it's difficult because they have 30 years of resentments that they've built up and 30 years
Ooh,
of programming that they've trained each other on how to respond to each other but they still want to be married, they still love each other, and so they're working on that. But it's like, how do I forgive you for everything that I think you've done to me on both,
mhm.
and have fun with you and remember who we used to be because we loved each other once, you know
Yeah.
used to have fun before we had 6 kids and grandkids and jobs, and yeah.
How
So
do you get your brain back there again, to before kids and dating and that whole newness and that fun? Like, can you ever go back?
yes, you can. And I think that's what I believe that's what really getting to know yourself would do. Because if you can really look at yourself honestly in the mirror and say, you know what, I've been really shitty too.
Mhm.
I've done some really crappy things too. And I hope that my partner can forgive me. So I'm going to forgive them because I'm not I've contributed to this just as much as them. But most partners want to say, but it's like 90% them and 10% me, or it's
Right.
40% me. Like, why are we putting a percentage on it? How much do both of you want this to change? Can both of you just honestly say it's 50-50 here?
Yeah.
And I want to have fun. So I'm going to try to let down my guard and I'm going to try to trust you. And I'm going to try to help each other remember, like, remember, we're trying to have fun. Remember, we're not going to fight. Remember, we're doing things differently, and really slow down with each other and just be patient.
Yeah. I love that so much. Is
Mhm.
there ever a time where a marriage is just complete? You're not fighting really, but it's just complete.
I think that we have stages of that. I think that people will come in and out of that, um, and that it's possible to have. I couldn't say that there's ever one that's just complete and it's over. I often use an example. I asked my grandmother who's in her 80s, like, man, it must be so nice to be like 80 and just have it figured out, right? Like you never offend anybody, like you just get along with everybody, like life's just good, right? And she said, no. And I was like, what? You mean to tell me like I don't ever just like figure it out? She said, you're always and all the marriages that I've seen, like we go through stages of like life's good. I
Yeah.
love you, good. And then
Mhm.
it's a broken leg, or somebody loses a job, or kids graduate from high school or get married and move away, or we have grandkids, and there's always going to be something. But the beauty of that is then we take it to the next level. then we have the opportunity to say, like, do I want to get better with you, or do I want to stop here?
Mm.
And the intimacy has a chance to go a little bit deeper or stay where it's at.
I've
And that's,
seen this happen before though, where there was like empty nest syndrome, kids moved out, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, I loved him, but it was just complete. We're good friends still, but we're done. And some people are like, well, why would you be done if you're good friends and you still love each other? Well, just done.
oh, you mean like done, like a complete marriage, like they were just ready to be done. Like we,
Exactly. Like they cut, like they got divorced. It was the relationship had ended. It was completed and they're done. The kids moved out. They loved each other still, but it was just done.
hmm. I mean, I think that's totally, if they are both okay with that, even if one of them was okay with it, the other person wouldn't really have a choice, right?
Yeah.
But like, I guess that could be a beautiful thing if they just said, you know what, we feel like we filled our roles together and we are happy to just walk away and let each other go. I
Yeah.
mean, totally personal choice.
It's just interesting to me a little
Yeah.
bit when
Yeah.
if it comes down to that, you know?
Yeah.
And there's no right or wrong way, right? I'm not saying there's wrong or right, but I'm just saying that is interesting why we wouldn't want to. Like we chose this person, we had a family with them, like why we wouldn't want to keep going till the very end. But I guess if the intimacy wasn't there or the passion, maybe that would make it not complete.
Yeah. And they just didn't want to try to figure it out. They would rather figure it out with somebody else, because let's be honest, right? That newness in a new relationship is super exciting and super fun, and the endorphins and all the serotonin is all just like crazy and fun. It's exciting.
Mhm. Yeah, totally.
But there's something cool about that long-term relationship that, like, we know we worked our butts off to this good. Like we've been stuff, and we,
Mhm. I love that.
yeah.
I'm watching this series on Netflix called someone said, "Watch Virgin River." And so I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna watch Virgin River." And there's like this old couple who's kind of separated because he had an affair, but he still really loves this wife. And she's had this resentment against him ever since 20 years ago he had this affair. But in the end, like when she's like, I just want a divorce finally. Let's just do this. And she just starts to break down and cry. She's like, I love you. And I still do. And I'm going to forgive you. And then you just see them passionate. And they're just this old couple making out all the time in this show. And I'm like, oh my gosh. But it's so cute at the same time. It's like, see, old couples, old people, like in their 70s, 80s, right? Can still have a good time and have the passion and the intimacy and the love if you're willing to go there.
They totally can. And that's, see, what I see from that, though it's just a show, right? The
Yeah.
truth, she finally gave herself permission to divorce. And I've heard a therapist say that before, like divorce is always an option. And when we give ourselves permission that divorce is always an option, then it's always our choice to stay.
Mm.
Always an option, but I am choosing you. I choose to stay with you. So she finally gave herself permission to be like, I'm done. Like, I want peace in my life. And then she gave herself that. Then she could let him back in, because now I'm choosing you. I choose to stay with you. I choose
Yes.
you. I'm not forced to stay with you. I'm not forced to forgive you. I choose it.
Yeah. I love that so much. And if you want your marriage to look a certain way or have the passion, why are you so scared? Like, go for it. Just jump in there and you bust the move. Like, you do it.
Mhm.
Why are you waiting for him? Or why are you waiting for her? Like, let's just do it, right?
Yeah. And Brene Brown, all her stuff talks a lot about that, being vulnerable and just opening yourself up. And
Yes.
so she's really good, a good one for that kind of stuff, vulnerability and how that actually brings closeness. But it's scary and you could get hurt.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
you just
totally.
make the first move and say, you know what, you can hurt me. And I'm gonna let you, if that's what you choose. Because
Mm,
I'd rather be close to you than not.
I love that so much. Have you studied Finless and Fife, her stuff?
Yeah. Yeah, she's good too. Yeah.
Yeah. Grant's been like studying her. He's like, she's really good, this LDS sex therapist or whatever she is,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, she's got some good tips too, because I know our religion's a little bit different when it comes to relations.
Yeah.
And there's what's that?
We don't talk about it very much.
We don't talk about it. That's exactly right. And we're kind of scared coming into marriage, right? Because we've kept ourselves clean, or I don't know what you want to say, not clean, but you know what I mean? Like
Or yeah.
we did not have premarital sex coming into it. Maybe, mostly we were taught that. And then
Yeah.
you get there and it's like scary. It's like, oh my gosh, it's this thing now. So
Hmm.
she talks a lot about that kind of stuff and how to overcome that.
How to accept your body and just be you, and
Mhm. And how
oh,
not to feel the shame around whatever you're doing, like, just enjoy and have fun,
yeah,
you know?
be curious, right?
Yeah,
Just curious with each other.
yeah. But also, don't feel the need to, like, have sex the first time you get married, like, maybe you need some time. I think all of us feel obligated to the other person, I owe it to him, or
Yeah.
he owes it to me, now we're married. And I once heard a friend say, "Oh, yeah, we didn't have sex the whole first month we were married." I was like, "What?" Like, what was he thinking when you were just like, "No, I'm not ready," you know?
Yeah.
True, like, you don't have to, I guess.
Yeah.
Because look, we should date each other and get to that point where we're building up to sex anyway. We never
Yeah.
really built up to sex, if you had no relations like that before marriage, like, it could be a slow process to get into that.
Yeah. Give
Anyways.
people permission to do, just because then we're not making sex about penis and vagina, right? We're like, sex is about an intimate experience. It doesn't
Yes.
click. Both of us have orgasms, or one of us has an orgasm, and then we're done.
Yeah.
Like, about being intimate with each other and seeing each.
Yes. You'll enjoy it so much more, I
Yeah.
think. You build up that passion and that intimacy, and it doesn't have to be just a quick, like, okay, well, we're married now. We have to do it. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
I
I
remember
think that,
thinking that, like, like being scared, because I just always been taught this way. And so just interesting. And not
yeah.
that it's the wrong way to be taught either. I'm not saying that either. Because
No.
there was some good moral value to that. And I appreciated that. But
Hmm.
also, I was scared. Like, I was really scared my first night with my husband,
Yeah.
you
I
know?
think different ways to describe it too. Like, sex is meant to be, I think when sex is done right, it's meant to be a sacred experience, and it's not something that we just go talking about with anyone and everyone, and we want to keep it special
Mm-hmm.
so that we can, make sure that we honor each other. However, it's not something that we can't talk about.
Yes,
We need to be able to talk about it with, people that we trust.
exactly. It's going to help us be more open to the experience of it.
And there's lots of books about it. If you're too shy to talk to somebody about it, there's books about it. If you're an active LDS person and you want to read a book about it, there's even active LDS people who have written books about it. If you want,
Yes.
or you can read other books from other people's perspectives too.
There was
So,
a lot more. There's a lot more now than when we were first married.
oh yes, for sure. And it was still like, um, very,
Hush, hush.
yeah, it was hush hush, and they would use the word of like, oh, no necking and petting, and it's like, what is that?
What's necking? What are we doing with our necks? Yeah.
Next together, or like,
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we were still using the manual, the for strength of youth manual, kind of or whatever it was.
yeah.
Yeah, and there was only one book. It was called like They Were Not Ashamed or something. I
Mhm.
remember.
Yeah.
It's like the
And
only one.
there were so many symbolic terms instead of just like say the words. You know.
Say the dang words.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I love it. Remember when
Yeah.
we'd hickeys and we'd talk about that in high school?
So weird. I
So
mean,
silly.
I have a story. I don't know if it's appropriate to share on the podcast, so
It's
maybe I'll.
always appropriate. Yes.
Well, so just educational, right? Like when we were kids, and I remember going over to one of our friends in the neighborhood, and one of the older sisters was talking about, I guess she took a pregnancy test, but there were like
Mm.
two lines, right? And two lines meant she was pregnant. And they're like, oh, there
Oh,
was lines.
yeah.
And I swear you were probably there. So like all my little girl mind was like, I had like two little scratches on my arm, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's 2 lines. Like, I'm
I'm
pregnant.
pregnant.
My mom's gonna kill me. I'm not even like kissed a boy. Like, there's no way that a penis was close to my vagina. Like,
Right, right.
Yeah.
I was probably there, and I probably am thinking of who this person is. That's funny though.
So funny. Like,
We had the best times. Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
And I think it's important to educate our kids so that they just know, and it's not awkward, and we can talk about it, and
Mhm.
they can have happy, healthy marriages and not be
You
scared.
had 2 boys now, and they turned out amazing. So
So far, so good. I think they're awesome kids. So yeah.
that's awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, any last words, any last piece of advice that you would give to someone, a takeaway that you'd give on this podcast that the listeners, might be happy taking home today? One thing they can put into practice for a happy marriage.
Well, first of all, just one piece of advice. Don't be afraid to get a life coach. Don't be afraid to find a therapist. And if you don't like them, don't say, I'm never going back to therapy, right? Like, all therapists are crazy. No, we're not all the same. Just like not all humans are the same. If you find a therapist that you didn't like, try another one. Shop around until you find one that you believe can help you and your spouse if you feel like you need to go to marriage counseling.
Absolutely.
So that's my one piece of like kind of generic advice.
And do you coach couples online, or do you just, they come to you personally?
All my sessions are in person, but I could do online. I have done online therapy or
Mhm.
calls or whatever. I can do that. I haven't.
Can you tell the listeners how people find you if they're interested?
I have just a little Instagram page. It's called therapy with Marilla Ann, and that's my Instagram tag. I'm at Desert Pain Specialist in St. George, Utah. And that's how you would find me. I do have a book page just under my name, Marilla. If you want, I like to just give people little bits of therapy tips. So if you want that, it's there. And I don't know. I mean, really, the thing that I would say for couples is what I've already said. Just be yourself, know yourself, love yourself. And then you offer who you are and be unique, and don't try to be like somebody else, and don't try to compare your marriage to somebody else's. And that way you love your spouse completely and fully and for who they are.
I love that. That is a good takeaway today. That's awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. You guys won't forget Marilla, because no one else is named Marilla except for on Anne of Green Gables. But other than that, it's just you.
Thank you.
Special. There's like a million Heathers out there. So I get lost in the weeds, but there you are. Thank you so much for coming on today. You're amazing. And this will probably come out on Saturday, so everyone can hear it this Saturday. I'll kick you a link to that.
Yeah, I'll share it.
I love you so much. You're the best.
You're the best. I'm going to take a little screenshot of us.
Me too. I'll take a little picture of us right there. This is us talking. I love it. Okay. Love you so much, my friend. You're amazing.
You too. You're amazing.